Okay.
How's your son, Audra?
He's doing really well. Thank you for asking. How's your nephew?
He's doing well.
Good, good. That's good.
Trey, you're good to go.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to what we have started, which is the Town Hall series sponsored by the Dallas County Democratic Party. Today, we have an amazing town hall. We have two of the runoff candidates that's running for the criminal court number 3, and both of them are amazing candidates. So we definitely, this is definitely going to be a really, really good town hall. Before I introduce our moderator, I would just like to give a shout out to the sponsors that are making this happen for us. We have Tillotson Law, we have the Honorable Carol and Dan Donovan, we have Terry Barker, Dr. Catalina Garcia, Hamilton Wingo, LLP, the Honorable Marcy Helfand and Robert Book, and also Scott Perez, LLP. So we definitely wanted to give a shout out to the sponsors for these town halls, and definitely are very appreciative, for their contributions. So again, like I said, we have a great town hall today. Like I said, we've gotten a lot of good responses and feedback from this town hall. So just to give a little introduction about the moderator, we have Sean Reed. He's definitely one of the upcoming, good guys that we have in the area. He's very involved with Urban League, and definitely he's going to be a very good moderator during this town hall. So we definitely are very appreciative that we have him as the moderator. So I present to some, introduce to others. Sean Reed.
I don't think he's on.
Well,
Trey, he was having
okay.
issues.
Well, we're having some technical issues. So what I'll do is I will just moderate until we get those problems rectified. Like I said, we have two great candidates that's running for this seat. So what I'm going to do is give both of them 2 minutes to give a 2-minute introduction. So we're going to start with Ms. Hawthorne.
Thank you very much. Is it Tremon?
Yes.
First, I would like to thank all of the folks who were kind enough to represent this Zoom meeting and speak to the young people that are here today doing the technical part. More importantly, I'd like to thank Carol Donovan for her hard work, for a thankless job that takes a lot of personality, a lot of spirit, and I just want to thank her for that. I'm running for Criminal District Court number 3 as judge. I have been a former judge at the 203rd Judicial District Court, and I've been a lawyer. The two combined, I've been 30 years in the criminal justice system. I'm hoping to win this election because I want to continue all of my efforts toward making the criminal justice system a more reasonable edifice for crimes that is committed in our community. I believe in protecting the community, but I also believe in reasonable sentencing. I believe in reasonable probationary periods. And I think it's very important for rehabilitation. And I've taken strides in that. I have worked extremely hard with the mentally ill, and I'm very proficient in the DSM-4 and the DSM-5 in working with the mentally ill. And also, I am the only state judge that had the courage to rule that the Texas death penalty statute was unconstitutional and did receive awards for being courageous doing that. So I would like to continue and add my unique qualifications to this position to continue to serve the community as judge of Criminal District Court number 3.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Audra?
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Dallas County Democratic Party. Thank you, Carolyn Donovan, and thank you, Trey, for getting this together, uniting us Democrats and just informing everyone of this runoff and why we are both running. Again, my name is Audra Riley, and I am running solely based on fairness. I am a former prosecutor in Dallas County, and I now practice criminal defense law. So I am the only candidate in this race who has worked on both sides. I think it's very important for anyone who sits on the bench to have that type of experience because justice demands balance. And being a former prosecutor and criminal defense attorney, that's exactly what I would bring. I also believe in fair sentencing across the board, like Hawthorne does, whether it's probation or whether it's a lower prison sentence or whether it's drug rehabilitation, alcohol rehabilitation, mental illness treatment. That's what I'm running for. I'm running for all the citizens of Dallas County. It doesn't matter which side you're on. Everyone can become a victim of the criminal justice system. And unfortunately, some families are also involved on the defense side. And I've worked on both sides, and that is exactly what I'm.
All right. Thank you.
Do I have 30 seconds rebuttal on that?
We actually just want to jump in on the question. So just want to start off by asking, by qualifications, why do you feel like that you are the best candidate for this position? We'll start with you, Audra, and then we'll rotate who goes first.
Yeah, so thank you, Trey, for that question. And I kind of just explained it. I think that I am the best candidate for this position because I have the most diversified experience. I don't have 30 years. I've been practicing 15 years, but what have I been doing with the 15 years after I graduated from law school? I worked at the DA's office for 10 years. I've tried those cases, the misdemeanor cases. I've tried the felony cases as a prosecutor. I learned how to get evidence, and I learned from a prosecutorial standpoint. And now from a criminal standpoint, I'm fighting for the rights of my clients. Sometimes the evidence just isn't there. And so we go to trial on those cases as well. I am also a former prison guard. When I was in college at Sam Houston State University, I also majored in criminal justice. My entire career has been criminal justice. But when I was in college, I worked my way through college as an actual prison guard at the Pulaski unit. And for those who don't know, the Pulaski unit is the death row unit. So I've worked on death row. I've worked in what they call general population. I've worked in aggravated segregation. And of course, you don't have to have this qualification in order to be a judge. However, it definitely helps. When someone stands in front of a judge and that judge is about to sentence them after being convicted, it would be a good thing. It's a good quality to have, just having worked in the system and to see what the conditions of life are like. So, that's what differentiates me from my opponent in this race. And that's why I think I am the best candidate.
And of course, I believe I'm the best candidate because I bring unique qualifications to the bench of being a judge. I would like to add that I have never worked for the prosecutor's office. I went to law school because I believe in the Constitution and I believe in helping the mentally ill and the down and trodden people that do not get the representation, even today, that they do get. And I have done that very successfully. I also, even though I have not been a prosecutor, I have been appointed by numerous judges to be a special prosecutor. Right now, I am working on a first-degree drug case that was John Crusoe's case before he became DA, and the judge of that court appointed me knowing that I know both sides and I can be fair to both sides and do what needs to be done, whether I'm a prosecutor or whether I'm a defense attorney. My unique qualifications entail the fact that I worked my way through undergraduate school. I became a school teacher. I got my master's degree. I was involved in the school district. I worked with kids that had mental problems then. I worked with kids that had drug problems. I was the senior class sponsor of that school. I was asked to be the first girls head coach in Garland at North Garland High School, which put me in an administrative position and working at an administrative level, dealing with budgets and everything else. These qualifications my client does not have. I have a master's degree and my law degree. I have worked uniquely with all ethnicities with my entire background, which means I've worked with the rich, I've worked with the poor. I was an academic counselor for the athletic department at Southern Methodist University, where I worked to help with athletes who had been given scholarships and needed tutors in order to get through the entire academic program. You have to be able to combine academics with criminal justice, because you have too many people that have not even graduated from high school. As a judge before, I did everything I could to help them get their GEDs. I even went to some of their high school graduations. I went far and beyond to make sure that they were treated as humans. And I went far and beyond to make sure that the victims were represented by them, and that the most violent went to prison. One thing that I'm very proud of is that when a person was on probation, if the motion to revoke had been filed to take their probation away from them, a lot of times the state wanted to continue them, but they wanted them to do anywhere from 15 to 60 days in jail to stay on probation. Well, if you do that to them, they lose their job. Their family has to move. Their kids have no food. So what I would do, I would lower the number of days because I felt like they needed to be punished, but I would give them an opportunity. I'd say, you can either do 10 days in jail, or you can come in here and sign in with me every morning before you go to work. And everybody, once I started that, chose to come in and see me every morning or to sign in with my bailiff, and they were very successful at it. I think you have to have an open mind, and my unique qualifications and my number of years involved with all of these backgrounds make me the most qualified candidate for this position. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judge Hawthorne. Thank you so much for your introductions. Excuse my tardiness. I've been on Zoom calls at least 3 to 5 per day for the past 2 months, like most of you guys. And the day that I'm moderating this, I have Wi-Fi issues. So I'm using my phone. So if you see my screen go to screensaver, just know that I'll be looking into the chat and reading you guys' questions. Thank you all for attending today's candidate forum. We will be taking questions from the audience. If you have a direct question, I ask that you post it inside the chat feature. Keep your phones on mute the entire duration of the event, and I'll read the questions off from there. Make sure that we address both candidates and we're not asking any candidates direct questions. Each candidate will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to respond to each question, and they may not directly target the opposing candidate. Candidates, do we have any questions about the rules?
No.
No, sir.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, so I'll take the first question. Hey, if both of you guys could explain what the responsibilities of judge in this specific court are in your own words to our audience today. We'll start with Judge Hawthorne and then go to Ms. Riley.
There are 4 levels of felonies: 1st degree, 2nd degree, 3rd degree, with the first being the most, with the highest 5 to 99 years or life. And a judge's responsibility is to make certain that when a state indicts someone, that they fully go through with either working with a defense attorney to work that case out, which means the 2 of them and the client would come, and the victim would come to a plea bargain agreement. And my job would be to make sure that that's done on a daily basis and not procrastinated that this person sits in jail or the victim waits. If they can't come to agreement, then my job is to preside over a jury trial. And a jury trial is where 12 people will listen to both sides and determine whether or not the defendant is guilty or not guilty. And then either the judge or the jury, depending on what the defendant chooses, will decide the sentencing. There is what's called a trial before the court. If the state gives up their right to a jury trial and wants to do a trial before the court, that means that the judge will be the jury instead of 12 people being the jury. So in summary to all of that, you want to make sure that your court runs efficiently, that all of these cases are moving, that the district attorney's office is doing what they're supposed to be doing to prepare and move their cases along, and also the defense attorney. And most importantly, then at that point, the judge is a referee. I'm not to tell either side how to try their cases or to make suggestions. That would be an ethical violation. My job is to make sure that the law is followed in the courtroom. I have done that with proficiency and will do it again. And I've researched. I never was overruled by the appellate court. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Riley, if you can respond as well.
Thank you. First, let me point out, I am not a client. I am a candidate in the runoff for Criminal District Court number 3. I think she misspoke and called me.
I'm so sorry, Audra.
That's okay, Judge. That's okay. That's okay. She's a former judge, so I still give her that respect as judge. So I would have to say that a judge's role in a felony court is to preside over all felony cases of all levels. And again, that is state jail all the way up to first-degree felonies. It's important for a judge to keep order. It's important for a judge to keep a level head and make firm decisions, hard decisions sometimes, but fair decisions. It's the job of that presiding judge to ensure that everyone is playing fairly, making sure that no one is committing any sort of ethical violations, making sure that no one, the state nor the defense attorney, that they are, playing bad, basically, that they are trying to get into evidence or getting into things that they should not because the rules of evidence don't allow them to. So that is something that the judge does. The judge also provides jury trial cases. That's 12 people of Dallas County. They come in and they listen to the evidence. And so again, the judge's role in that moment is to make sure that everything is done correctly. It's also important to say that one of the most important roles of a judge is to set reasonable bonds. That is something that I am extremely, that's at the top of my priority list, is to make sure that bonds are set at reasonable amounts. Of course, bonds are not supposed to be oppressive. They are supposed to ensure that the person accused comes back to court. And a lot of times my clients as a criminal defense attorney, they sit there because they just don't have the money to bond out. So that is important. A judge's role also is to look at those cases and on nonviolent offenders, if that judge thinks that that person is, a good candidate for a PR bond. A PR bond is basically you get out of jail based on your word that you will come back. That's something that I'm definitely a proponent of. And another huge role of a judge is when sometimes individuals accused of crimes, they plead guilty and they go open to the judge for sentencing. And so that's another role of the judge, to assess sentencing in those cases. And of course, I am running on that platform, one of my platforms, and that's fair sentencing across the board. No matter who you are, no matter what you look like, no matter who you love, fair sentencing should be for everyone. Sean, I can see someone.
I can't hear. Can
okay.
you?
I can hear you. I don't know what happened.
I don't either. Can you hear me, Audra?
I can hear you and you can hear me.
Yeah.
Maybe they can hear us.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I'm not sure what happened, but we're getting it together today. Thank you so much for both of those answers. I do want to remind you guys to try to keep your answers to 1 minute and 30 seconds. Now that I have my laptop up and I can actively use my timer, I'll let you know once you reach that 1 minute and 30 second mark. Audience, if they're using any verbiage or language that you're not familiar with, be sure to ask those questions in the chat as well, and we can clear that up. Thank you so much, Ms. Riley, for explaining and educating us on what a PR bond was for those who weren't aware. The next question is, and we'll go in reverse order. So Ms. Riley, you have the first question. As a judge, if you have the power, what initiatives will you implement in your court to support the community?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. So I think it's important for anyone who comes into the criminal justice system and unfortunately they are placed on probation. I think it's extremely important to provide them with resources. You know, let's just not give them probation with nothing to do. Let's provide them with, you know, if they need to go back to school, let's get them back to school. If we need to get them into some sort of job training program, let's do that. If they need rehabilitation, and a lot of my clients, that is exactly, you know, what finds themselves in the criminal justice system, let's get them some drug treatment. If they need mental health treatment, let's get them mental health treatment. If it's alcohol, let's get them treatment. Let's give them resources to get them back on the right track. You know, criminal justice, it shouldn't just be about punishment, right? Even if, you know, the evidence is there and you plead guilty to the offense, it's not about punishment. It's about getting an individual back on track so they can go out into their community and be a productive citizen for themselves and their family members and this entire community.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your answer. Judge Hawthorne, if you can answer the question.
Hey, I think your question was, how as a judge would I support the community? One of the most important things that I did as a judge and will continue to do as a judge to support the community is to give PR bonds to the indigent. And I was known at Frank Crowley Courthouse. I gave more PR bonds to nonviolent offenders than any other judge at the courthouse, and will continue to do that because these people cannot afford bonds. But as far as getting out and supporting the community, I did and have in the past supported the community by joining in with many community members before school starts and helping gather backpacks and school supplies, because I feel that if you educate and education comes first, then these people don't end up in prison. I also would go, and I spoke at many schools on career days. I've worked with the principals and assistant principals with certain children that are having personality problems or might be mentally ill in the schools. And as I've said, I get out in the community, I work the community, I help educate children about crime, I tell them what a jail is like, what a holdover is like. I make it so bad for them that they would never want to go. I give money to the churches to help with programs that involve indigent children also. I've actually gone to many apartments on my own to help children that need school supplies. Thank you.
Thank you so much. While we're talking about bonds and PR bonds, my next question is, what factors would you consider as a judge when setting bail amounts for defendants? And this time we'll start with Judge Hawthorne and then go to Ms. Riley.
Well, first of all, the law does say that a bond is to ensure that the defendant will appear in court. That is the primary reason for a bond. But I always consider whether or not they have a job. I consider how many children they're feeding. I consider their work background and their background. And then I also consider, because there are times that the crime is so heinous that you really, it would be unsafe for them to get out. And that's when any judge is going to set a high bond. I'm known to set fair and reasonable bonds. I believe that people should be out waiting to go to trial instead of waiting in to go to trial unless they've murdered, raped kids, or committed some of our most heinous offenses.
Thank you so much. Ms. Riley?
Thank you. So some of the factors, if I am elected, that I would consider, you know, if a person is a good candidate for a PR bond is, you know, who they are. You know, if they have ties to the community, the type of case that they've been charged with, whether or not it's a, you know, a nonviolent offense. You also look at a person's criminal history, if they've ever been in trouble before. I think one of the most important things, as you know, if I'm elected, that I would take a hard look at for PR bonds, those cases would be the nonviolent offenders. You know, if a person is charged with a theft in hands, that's a state jail felony. So if a person is charged with theft in hands, and you know what they took from, or the allegations, what they allegedly took from, you know, Walmart was food or something of that nature, that's someone who, in my opinion, you know, is someone that I need to look at for a PR bond.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions in the chat? I'll pause for about 15 to 30 seconds to allow you guys to ask your questions. If not, I have a couple more that I'd like to ask as well. So I have a question of someone asked me, give me 1 second. Okay, let's talk about violent crimes for a little bit. Violent crimes are perceived to be a crisis level by many experts today. What, if any, do you believe to be the appropriate role for the judiciary in perceived crisis? Give me 1 second, let me reread that question. Sorry, that's the thing when you're getting questions as they come in, you just read them out. So let me screen some questions first and then ask one that's better fitting. Or whoever asked that question, if you can retype it and make it a little bit more clear, I'll definitely appreciate that. Here's one. Do judges have an obligation to improve the public understanding of courts? If so, how should they carry out that obligation? So that question was, do judges have an obligation to improve the public understanding of their courts? And if so, how should they carry out that obligation? So more of a community engagement information. We'll start with.
Can't hear you again, Sean.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll repeat the question. It's a community engagement type of question, I'm believing. Do judges have the obligation to improve the public understanding of their courts and courts? And if so, how would they carry out that obligation? So it's asking about improving public understanding of their particular courts. Is that the obligation of the judge?
Who do you want to answer the question first?
If you can answer the question first, Judge Hawthorne.
Okay. Yes, judges do have an obligation to make certain that the public understands how the procedures of the courthouse. And I'll be the first to tell you it's not easy to explain it. You have to be able to get on a level of an elementary school teacher because it is so detailed. But how can I do that, or how can a judge do that? There's all sorts of avenues to go out and speak in public. And I have gone out and spoken in public to churches, to the Lions Club, to women organizations. And especially the Democratic women's clubs are very good about having judges come and speak. I also have a typed out format that I use for both defendants so they will understand the whole process, and for people in society and members to understand. So, and just here, and whoever's listening, reach out to judges and reach out to lawyers, and we will come and help you understand. But judges do have that obligation, and I have in the past and will continue to reach out to as many people as possible to explain the judicial process and how the criminal justice system does work and how it could even work better.
Thank you so much. Ms. Riley, if you can answer the same question.
Thank you for that question. So what I can tell you is I didn't know that it was an obligation, but if it's not an obligation, it absolutely should be an obligation to inform the public of what the court system is about, what that particular judge's role is, because it's the community, it's the citizens, it's the voters who vote judges in. And as a public service office, it should be a judge's responsibility to inform the community about what the criminal justice system, or at least that courtroom, is like. And there are, a number of judges who are out there educating the public, educating the community by having different programs for the community. Not just some, organization, but for the community, and they invite everyone out. For example, pipelines to possibilities. I don't know if you have ever heard of that, and some of the judges who are involved in that is what it's about. And if I am elected, those are some of the things that I would also implement so the community can be involved into what it is that goes on inside of a criminal courtroom.
Okay, thank you so much. The next question will be for you first. If you have the power, how will you address the issue of minorities being given longer sentences for same or similar crimes as other groups?
Yeah, thank you again for that question, Sean. So the power that a judge would have, and I hate to even call it power because a judge is there to administer justice. They're there to administer balance. And so there's no way in the world that someone a minority, a Black person, should be given more time, right, for the same type of offense that someone of a different race was given under the same similar circumstances. Of course, you have to take a look at a person's criminal background and things of that nature, but that is why I'm running. That is one of the main reasons, don't be mistaken, that I am running, because as a lawyer, as a criminal lawyer, you see it. And so I would ensure that sentencing across the board is fair to everyone. It does not matter, again, who you are, what you look like. Fairness should overrule anything like what a person looks like. So that is exactly what I would do if I'm elected as your next judge of Criminal District Court 3.
Thank you so much, Judge Hawthorne. If you can answer the same question.
Yes. As a past judge, I know that in my court that never happened. It never will happen. And Miss Riley knows that because she did a lot of work in there, because I made sure she had a lot of work in there because she was a good lawyer. So I can just tell you, no one is going to be sentenced more just because they're Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, or whatever. And I'm going to make sure that that's done. And I'm like Miss Riley, I hate to use the word power, but you do have the power that if you see that happening, to bring it to a halt. And I'll tell you one day what I did. I called everybody in my courtroom, and here's what I said to the clerks, to the DAs, to the bailiffs, to everybody. I said, I want to remind everybody of one thing. These people that come through this courtroom are not pieces of paper. So you don't have to worry about that with me.
Thank you so much for your answer. And we'll take the next question. Guests and audience, for posing and asking your questions. I'll get to as many as possible. We're going to end today at 5. So if you can hold off just for the next 10 minutes, let me ask the questions that are already in the queue. And if we have time for more, I'll let you guys know. So next question for Judge Hawthorne. What reforms do you support to increase access to justice for all, and how will you fight for them from your seat if elected?
What reforms
do you support to increase access to justice for all? And as a judge, can you support reforms given by the district attorney in a county or anything like that?
You have to be careful how you do things.
Okay.
Because you never want to have the appearance, even the appearance of impropriety, right, or you're going to get called on the carpet for that. Reforms for justice begin with the judge. Begin with the judge by reasonable bonds, PR bonds. When you have a person in front of you that's on probation, you are supporting justice when you don't revoke their probation for smoking a joint or missing, reporting for 3 times, or picking up a misdemeanor, or getting a speeding ticket. And some people revoke these people. I don't. And when I didn't do that, and when I won't do that, I am supporting justice reform. For example, and tell me, raise your hand when my time's almost up. You know, if a person, I would release people from probation even if they hadn't reported for a year, if they've been on probation for 5 years and they're working and they're supporting a family, they're feeding their kids, but they couldn't afford their probation fees and they got scared and didn't come. And I felt like that at some point, if they'd been on probation for several years and they hadn't committed any new offenses, and that's what I didn't want, commit new offenses, I would release them early. That's supporting justice reform.
Okay, thank you so much. Ms. Riley, if you can answer the same question. The question was, what reforms do you support to increase access to justice for all, and how will you fight for them?
And so my answer is going to kind of echo Hawthorne's answer, and that is, as a judge, you have the unique responsibility of making sure that things are done in the up and up, and that there is no case, it's not just black and white. There's a lot of shades of gray in between. So it's important for each judge to look at the set of circumstances that are in front of them, whether it's bail, lowering bail, whether it is fair sentencing. No matter what it is, that judge is in a unique position to get down to the bottom of it, to get into their business, and to hold the state responsible for whatever it is, whether it's to file a motion to hold somebody's bond insufficient or to revoke their probation. A judge is in a unique position to make sure that the right thing is done. So anything that is any sort of reform that is about fairness and justice, I'm definitely a proponent of, whether that is some sort of program that the DA's office that they have, or whether it's a program that is uniquely designed to people who are accused. I would be for it as long as it's fair.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'll give you time to drink water and catch your breath before I ask the next question.
My water.
I want to acknowledge our series sponsors right now, Tillotson Law Group and the Honorable Carol and Dan Donovan. In addition to our meeting sponsors, Honorable Terry Barker, Dr. Catalina Garcia, and then the Hamilton Wingo LLP. Also our friendship sponsors, Honorable Marcy, Helfand, and Robert Book, and the Scott Perez LLP. Thank you so much for our sponsors for helping to make this event a success and sponsoring the event. We truly and greatly appreciate you. Okay, we take a little water break. We good? Ready, Ms. Riley?
I'm out of my water, and
no.
I'm gonna push through.
Okay, perfect. What do you believe to be the root cause of the high number of felony cases, and what change can the court system make to reduce these numbers?
So that's for me, right?
Yes.
So I honestly think that the reason that the number of felony cases are so high is because, we need to do better with getting people treatment. I really think that a lot of cases come through the criminal justice system because of drug addictions. And when people use drugs, unfortunately, they make poor choices. So I think that's one of the main things, one of the main reasons. And I also think mental illness, sometimes people who have mental illnesses, they stop taking their medication because they don't like how it makes them feel. So they just completely stop taking it. And when that happens, sometimes they make choices that are not, good for them, and it's not good for the community. So in those kind of cases, and I think I mentioned it once before, in those kind of cases, I will make sure that I get them the help that they need. And a lot of times when they come in, sometimes they don't want the help. Sometimes they just want the easy way out, give me my back time and let me get back out there. And in some circumstances, maybe that should happen. But I am a judge who believes in rehabilitation, because if you just let someone out, they're just going to make the same bad decisions, and we'll be right back at square one. So I'm all about taking care of it, with rehabilitation or treatment or any resource that I can give them to make themselves a better person.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
There are several reasons there's too many felony cases. Lack of jobs, lack of education, drug problems, mental health problems, and the way the laws are written today. For example, a first-degree drug offense. You should see the amount of drugs that it takes to get a first-degree offense, the way that law is written. It's like I tell my people, if you got an airplane full of drugs, then yeah, maybe you need to do 30 or 40 years. But if you got 2 packages of Sweet and Low full of drugs, no, you need some help, probably have a drug problem. So we've got to educate employers to give these people a chance once they have offended, especially when they're nonviolent offenders, because jobs is the #1 thing to rehabilitation. We've got to make sure these defendants get their GEDs. And by doing that, we just don't put on a piece of paper, go get your GED or I'm going to revoke you probation. You encourage them. You know, sometimes I would email them, how's your GED program going? They need to know that people care. And that's what I'm good at. I'm good at encouraging people, making them want to do better. And we need to help them get through probation, not threaten them. If you don't pay your $60 this month, I'm going to send this paperwork to the judge and make sure you go to jail. That's BS. I'm sick of it. So if you want somebody that's going to fight, elect Teresa Hawthorne again.
Thank you so much, Judge Hawthorne. I just want to remind the guests of early voting. The last day to early vote is this Friday. Polls are open from 7 to 7, and then election day is July 14th. Make sure everyone not only cast their vote, but encourage their friends and family to go vote as well. We should be responsible and accountable for at least 10 people in our network. So let's make sure we get out the vote for this very special and important runoff election. Next question will be for you, Judge Hawthorne. For first, how will you balance being an independent judge and elected official? Can you tell us what that looks like for you?
Okay, I'm not understanding the question. I'm sorry.
They're asking how you balance being an independent judge and an elected official and explaining what that balance looks like for you.
Well, being a judge in this court is being an elected official. But how do I balance being independent and being elected? Okay, here's what I think the person means by that. You do not worry as a judge about what either side is going to say when you make a decision, because you're never going to please everybody. You have to be independent, and the most important thing you have to do is apply and follow the law. And that's what I did, and that's what I will continue to do. Apply and follow the law, keep myself independent, not partial to either side, let both sides put on their case, and make a legal decision.
Thank you so much. Ms. Riley? Unmute. Oh, you can hear me. Okay.
We can't hear her.
Unmute. Josh, if you can manually unmute her.
Thank you. No, he told me not to mute myself, so sorry,
Okay.
Josh. Okay, so may I have the question again?
The question was, excuse me, how will you balance being an independent judge and elected official?
Okay, good question, and I'm going to answer it to the best of my ability. This is an elected official position. However, I would not let outside influences make my judgment for me. My judgment will come based on the four corners of that courtroom that I am in. So I would ensure that I am doing exactly what, I'm doing exactly what I say I'm going to do, if I'm elected, and that is be fair to the entire community. So it's really not a balancing act. I would be exactly who I am in front of you guys right now. And my whole thing is, hold elected officials accountable, if they're not doing exactly what they said that they're going to do. So I plan on doing exactly what I say that I'm going to do, and that is to be fair to both sides.
Thank you so much. We have a question asking about jury selection. If you don't mind just briefly explaining the importance of juries and for our community to take it serious, because as you know, a lot of times, a lot of people try to get out of jury duty. Yeah. And then as a second part to that question, how you, if any, address the jury selection bias that may take place.
All right, thanks for that, whoever asked that question. Great question. So jury duty is just as important as voting. Your voice matters, your vote matters. Obviously, we are here trying to get your vote because you are the people who, you are the community. Just like you are the community to vote someone into office, you also have the community is the people who sit before, and who sit and hear evidence in these felony cases that we will preside over. And these are some serious, serious offenses. We are dealing with murder cases. We're dealing with child abuse cases. We're dealing with some serious cases. And it is up to the citizens of Dallas County to come out and to actually sit and listen to the evidence and, don't run away from it, because whoever that accused is, trust me, they're going to want 12 fair and impartial jurors sitting for them. And not just, they want a diverse range of individuals sitting in that jury to hear their case. And whoever the victim is, they also want a fair and unbiased jury sitting and listening to the evidence. So it's extremely important, just like voting is important. The second part of the question is, if there is something funny going on with jury selection and, striking individuals based solely on race, solely on gender, or anything like that, there is a method in place, and that can be brought up within the jury selection process to ensure that there is no one who's being stricken from the jury based solely on the color of their skin or their gender or things of that nature.
Thank you so much. Judge Hawthorne, if you can take the same question. The question is the importance.
Repeat it. If you would repeat the question, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. It's briefly explaining the importance of jury duty and how you address the issue of jury selection bias. And I'll allow about 15 seconds over just because it's two parts.
Okay. Jury duty is extremely important. And what most of the public don't know is that it is an elimination process. In other words, you are not chosen. You're sitting in an order of, say, 1 to 65. And if you say at any time, any statement whereby you would not be able to follow the law, you're going to get X'd out. And the first 12 left are the first 12 that's there. Because we when I say we, I mean both sides want fair and impartial jurors. So for example, I've had a lot of people ask me through my 30 years experience, how come I never get selected? And once I sit and talk to them, for example, one of the most profound statements that a juror, black or white, will make is my religion will not let me make a decision. Well, if you say that, you're going to be eliminated because you can't follow the law, which means you're never going to be selected anytime you say that. So, but yet on the other hand, we, the judge and the both sides, want people to say and tell the truth, because both sides, the state and the defense, deserve fair and impartial jurors that will only make their decision based on the evidence, which is what comes from the witness stand. And another thing that most people don't realize, nothing the judge says, nothing the defense attorney says, nothing the district attorney says is evidence. Evidence only comes from the witness stand. And that's why a lot of times when the media adds fuel and fire to some of these cases, people out there reading the stories don't know that they may be basing their facts on what they're reading in the newspaper. So I want people out there to know that we need fair and impartial jurors who are willing to follow the law, listen to the evidence, and base their decisions only on the evidence that was presented from the witness stand, whether it be testimony that comes in, or letters that come in, or DNA that comes in, or pictures that come in. That's the evidence.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. The time is 4:48, so we have about 12 more minutes. I have 2 questions left to ask. If I have time, I'll ask one more. So if a couple people have a question, you can place that into the chat and I'll pick one of those questions if we have time. For some of you guys who submitted questions that you did not hear, if you ask those questions directly to Ms. Hawthorne, with her being, because some people had questions basically because you're a former judge. I didn't ask those questions just because Ms. Riley didn't have the same experiences, but feel free to reach out to any of these candidates or any candidates running in any election and get your questions answered if yours weren't answered on this call tonight. So my next question, and we'll start with Ms. Riley, is please describe your firsthand experiences, if any, in dealing with people who are different from you socially, economically, or politically.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I tell you this, I grew up in Texarkana, Texas, and I grew up in a low to middle class family. You know, all of our needs were always met, but we didn't have the most. And so when I ventured off into college, I'm a first generational college student, first generational, obviously law student, attorney. So when I ventured off into Sam Houston State University, I felt kind of out of sorts. I didn't know what to do, who to talk to. But you know, people, I was able to find a common ground with the people who were there to get an education just like me. And so I would apply that to each and every situation that I found myself in, even at the district attorney's office. You know, I was scared as I don't know what, because that was an atmosphere that I wasn't adjusted to. I didn't see that growing up in life, but you find a common ground with people. And the common ground for me was there were people there who had similar stories, and they were there to protect the community. And so that's what I do. I find a common ground with people, and because we're not all different, we may look different, but we're not that different. So I find a common ground, and I build the relationship from there.
Thank you so much. Judge Hawthorne, do you need me to repeat the question?
No, I know the question.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. I grew up in a lower middle class background. I was raised in Garland. I have 2 brothers and a mom and dad. And I'm the first person to graduate from college. And here's my philosophy of life, because my mother set me down on the foot of the bed many, many, many years ago. And she said to me, and she called me Jan. She said, Jan, there's going to be a lot of people prettier than you, and there's going to be people not as pretty as you. There are going to be people smarter than you, and there are going to be people not as smart as you. And there are going to be people of all skin colors. But you start out by treating everybody with kindness, and that's what you do. And that has been my philosophy with people all these years. My courtroom was filled with kindness and courtesy. I used a firm hand when I needed to, but we're all in this together. And I think Audra and I for sure see eye to eye on this. We're all in this together. And what is a common ground? There's more common grounds than there are common grounds. We all bleed red. That's what I have to say.
Thank you so much for that answer. The next question, this is the second to last question, so we have 2 more and then we'll conclude. The next question is, how does reproductive justice play a part in decision making? I know many people miss out on their reproductive periods while being incarcerated. One second. Let's not take that question, I'm sorry. Audrey, if you can re-ask your question in just a little better way, I'll take that as our last question, and I'll go to the other question that we had. So sorry about that. What is your vision of the future of our judicial system, and what changes would you advocate for and why? And we'll start with Miss Riley and then go, no, actually, Judge Hawthorne and then go to Miss Riley.
My vision of the judicial system is, number 1, that we eradicate the death penalty. Number 2, that we have more work programs for especially nonviolent offenders. That we have more mental illness programs, because at least 80% of the people in jail are mentally ill and not on medications. And that we have more employers, as I've mentioned before, reaching out, trying to give these people a chance. And that we work together by helping our defendants become productive citizens of society because we care. And that we also work equally as hard for our victims who traumatized with heinous offenses, that the worst are locked up. And to balance the difference between the 2. I know when to incarcerate and I know when to rehabilitate. I'm asking for your vote.
Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Thank you. So my vision of the criminal justice system incorporates education. Education is vital when it comes down to trying to prevent someone from even getting into the criminal justice system. So I think at some point, I envision that educators and working along with court personnel to come together and build some sort of bridge to allow children who are coming, through grade school, that they get educated on the things that could happen, the laws that they cannot break. I think it's important for educators, for schools to have programs in place for children, after school programs, to prevent them from even entering into the criminal justice system. The criminal justice system, I think it can be better. It can be a lot better. And that is why I am running, because some of those individuals who are, right out of school and they unfortunately enter into the criminal justice system, those are individuals that I want to help. So again, when I say my vision really starts out with education. And that is one of the main reasons that I'm running for criminal district court number 3, just to improve it and for fairness.
Thank you so much for that answer. I'll give one final announcement and then allow you guys both a 2-minute closing. Next announcement is again about Election Day being July 14th. The last day to early vote again is July 10th. And if you don't know, anyone in Dallas County can vote anywhere or any open polling location in Dallas County. Just make sure you have your ID or your driver's license, and the address on that driver's license or ID does not have to match the address that is on your voter registration card. So again, the last day to early vote is Friday, the 14th, 7 p.m. And then Election Day is the 14th. So there are no polling locations open this weekend. And keep in mind that you guys can go to any polling location in the county for early voting and on Election Day. So we'll start with Ms. Riley for your 2-minute closing, and then we'll go to Judge Hawthorne for a 2-minute closing as well.
Okay. Thank you again to the Dallas County Democratic Party. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Trey, for getting all of this together. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Josh, on the tech side. Thank you for all that you have done. I am in a runoff for criminal district court number 3. Although I do not have 30 plus years of service as an attorney, I definitely have the different type of experience that is what's needed for Dallas County. Again, I am a former prosecutor. I practiced criminal defense work, and I was a prison guard. And that is experience that only I would bring to this bench. It's diversified experience. I have worked in diversified situations and with different people. I am asking Dallas County, I'm asking the voters to vote for me, vote for fairness. I will definitely be fair. I would be fair and respectful to anyone who walks into that courtroom. My entire career has been based on criminal justice, and that is something that I hold near and dear to my heart, fairness and equality for everyone. So again, I'm asking for your vote, Audra Riley for criminal district court number 3, and you can also check out my website at www.arileyforjudge.com.
Are you ready? I can't hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you, but I don't think they...
I can't hear Sean.
I can't hear them, but we can hear each other.
Sean. Okay.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, it said I couldn't unmute myself. I'm sorry. Josh told me not to touch anything, and I touched something. So thank you so much, Ms. Riley. Judge Hawthorne, if you can have your 2-minute closing as well.
Thank you. Again, I want to thank everyone that put this Zoom program together, and because of the virus, this has made us learn something new, and that is a good thing. I'd also like to thank my 2 opponents, Audra Riley and Allison Grinner, who are both fine lawyers. And I would like to thank them for making this a very clean and positive race. We all have different things to bring to the position. I don't think this is a time for a learning curve. I would like and ask you to vote for me, Teresa Hawthorne. You can read my website at www.judgeteresa.com. I would like at least another term to continue my efforts in making the criminal justice system a more responsible and more reasonable edifice or program for the community and for the defendants, and most of all for the victims. And so I'm asking you to look at my unique qualifications, look at the fact that all the things that I have done in my life, I have worked with all ethnicities, all age groups. I have worked with the mentally ill. I have worked with the educated, the uneducated, the rich, the poor. I know where to draw the line. And as I said before, I know when to incarcerate and I know when to rehabilitate. And we need more rehabilitation and more programs. And I want a chance to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that closing. At this time, I'd like to thank all the attendees who attended tonight and everyone who submitted a question. Remember, if your question was not answered, or if you have any further questions for candidates in any race, always reach out to them because they're doing this for you guys, for the people. And best of luck to you both. It takes an extreme amount of courage to run for elected office. And I thank you guys for putting yourself out there to run to represent us. Again, thank you to our sponsors. Hopefully our guests tonight were able to learn something that they did not know before coming in, and we can go to the polls tomorrow or the next day or Tuesday as informed voters and make an educated decision. The time is 5:01, so we're only a minute over. So thank you all and good night. Have a good one.
You.
Thank you.
You're welcome.